This is the latest 145 double bass made in the UK. This instrument is the reason I became a luthier. I've been playing it over 30 years. I've been building double basses, pickup systems for over 20 years. This is the latest version of what I've done and kind of an evolution of all of my years of work. I want to take you through this instrument from the end pin all the way to the scroll and explain all the parts, how they work. The idea behind this instrument was to stay true to the tradition of the shape and the aesthetics and the playability of the double bass, but bring it into the modern world so you can plug it into an amplifier, a huge amp, throw it in the back of a van and tour around the world with it. I'm going to start from the end pin here. Was built completely in-house. Every part was made out of raw materials here. And each part is I've thought out and redesigned and evolved over 20 years. And the first thing on this instrument is the end pin. I found years ago that these skate wheels work great. They never wear out and they don't slide. They don't spin off. You don't have to search for new crutch feet to put on the bottom of them. These things last forever. This is a Channel Blaster 2 pickup system that's built inside of the tailpiece. So all of your preamp and tone controls, blender, all of that is built into here. Your battery fits inside of here. I made it to where the strings pull straight out, so there's no kink like a traditional tailpiece where they come out of the front, then bend, because a lot of times the strings want to break here. This just runs a straight path right to the bridge. Also, the jack is built into the tailpiece, so you don't have something strapped to here or taped or, and you can plug a standard guitar cable just like you would be plugging in the guitar in an electric bass, just right here, bam, done. So this is a Blast Colt bridge. It's traditional style bridge. It has all of the elements of the original double bass bridges. I've made these wings slightly larger so that there's more surface area for the pickup to contact. Also, the Blast Colt tension screw, which gives you like the ultimate control of your output sound and feedback issues. If you have any with this pickup, you can dial it in with that tensioning screw. I've also designed these 6-star bridge adjusters to work while you have full tension on the strings. You can adjust them. You can raise your bridge, lower it, and you don't have any of the feet spinning or any of that problem. Also, this bridge is made from seasoned quarter sawn maple traditionally. It's slightly thicker, so you have a little bit more bridge surface touching here. Less likely to flop down like the tall skinny ones. This particular bass has the tonemonger strings, which are my favorites. You have a plain G and plain D gut, so these are just solid gut. And these are, the E and A are a really low tension steel that kind of replicates the sound. So when you go from your D to your A, you don't have a huge tone difference, and also the feel is consistent. This is a new thing that I just came up with. This ebony fingerboard, I've, instead of having a single scoop underneath that's shaped like that, they scoop it because this wood is so heavy. And say you have this in your bass bag and it's sitting on its back in the back of your vehicle or trailer or van. You have this pressure here against the wood, So I've seen a lot of basses that come in and the fingerboard's rainbowed and it dives here, which screws the whole playability of it. And you have to either get a new fingerboard or have it planed a lot to get it to be right. So I wanted to avoid that problem. So I did 2 separate scoops that go all the way to here. 2 smaller scoops. It takes the same amount of weight up. And then I routed a section in the middle that goes all the way up to about right here that has a carbon fiber rib glued into it. So if you see it under here, you can see the shape of the scoop here, how it doubles up. Right in here is the carbon fiber rib. So that adds a lot of strength. It has a glue joint in there, so this thing isn't gonna bend, and it doesn't add weight. This fingerboard actually comes in slightly lighter than a normal ebony fingerboard, and it's never gonna warp. I have a few different pickup systems other than the Channel Blaster 2. There's a mono blaster that just has the bridge pickup, and instead of a slap pickup, it has a treble adjustment, and that's more for a jazz guy or, you know, folk or somebody who doesn't slap and doesn't want that extra control over the fingerboard noise. This Channel Blaster 2, magnetic or piezo, this one's the piezo, always comes with the second pickup that goes under here, the slap pickup. And that's adjustable with a separate volume knob on the tailpiece. So another thing that's always plagued double bass are neck breaks. Most old basses that you see, especially old Ks, will have breaks here, here, even up here at the scroll. So I've done a few things to our neck to make them stronger, and they can take a beating way more than a standard old bass. The first thing is I make them two-part, and I use quarter sawn wood. So you can see here there's a seam in the center, and it goes all the way through the heel and everything. So there's a glue joint here, and I use quarter sawn wood, which is stronger. It's stiffer, it's more stable, and it's less likely to break. Also, my scroll design, I love the scroll. It's such a cool feature of any string instrument, but I wanted to give it my flavor without bastardizing it. Usually there's two valleys here. I turned it from here to here into 4. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it goes into this nice point. Standard carved scroll. On the inside of the peg box, you can see up here and right here, it's radius. So there's no square edges inside of the peg box, which makes it less likely to crack and break. You see when scrolls and peg boxes are broken, they usually break right here because it's a hard, chiseled, straight edge from this angle to this angle, and also in the back. So I've added the arc the whole way through, from top to bottom, so this is less likely to break if something crazy happens to your bass. This particular bass is a fixed neck. We do a removable neck as well. Same thing, it's the same angle, nothing changes. There's a small seam here that goes in an angle, and you simply push the coin in, and there's one bolt and a carbon fiber rod that guides it into place. So I make the tuning machines in-house. I do all the metal work here. There's 38 parts to a set of tuning machines, and I'm not counting these mounting screws, there's 20 of those, but there's actually 38 parts that I make here to make these tuning machines. And I use aluminum, steel, stainless steel, brass, Delrin, Teflon, and there's a brass key in the back. And also, I'm sorry, there's actually 42 pieces because I didn't count these guys, which are made from brass. I designed these to be rattle-free. The only metal-to-metal contact are where the gears mesh. And these are very high-spec gears, worm gears and cog gears, so they mesh up perfectly. But I wanted to avoid having metal-to-metal contact, so I used this mechanical material called Delrin, and the machine's really nice, and it keeps any rattles to a minimum up here. Also, this gear onto this, there's a Teflon bushing in the back to keep metal from metal touching. I just mixed some of my favorite old instruments from 200-300 years ago and put my own spin on the shape. You don't want to change these curves too much. It's such a beautiful instrument you don't really want to go, reinvent the wheel on that. You just want to take, what I wanted to do was take my favorite parts of all these other basses from Italy, Germany, and even the UK, and make my own tweaks to it, where you know, I can put my signature here on the F-hole. I've got that shape. You can see also in the bridge, that's my design. And this scale of this instrument, I wanted it to be a true kind of 3/4, which range from like 41 inches to 41 3/4. I made this one on the smaller side, so the scale is about 41 1/4, just under 41 1/4. It plays really easy. The neck, it's thinner up at the top this way, but there's still enough meat back here where your hands don't cramp, you know. It gives you, I find some of the vintage instruments have huge tree trunk necks. I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to touch my first knuckle up here at, you know, the top, and then at the heel to touch my fingers, and that's where we're at on this. Now I want to tell you about the parts of this instrument that you can't see. And this is where I think this bass shines and is different than anything that's ever been built before. It has the appearance of a traditional bass, the shape, the angles, everything is, you know, like it was hundreds of years ago. But the first problem that I wanted to address with the bass, and I've seen this come into my shop a million times, are broken end blocks. End block is the structural piece on the inside, usually made of spruce, that holds your end pin in place, and it's kind of the anchor at the bottom of your bass. It's made of a softwood, traditionally. It's really light, and any like hard shot to the bottom can split it on the grain. And if you have a more inexpensive imported bass, it's probably made from a shipping crate or just some scrap piece of wood. Who knows what species it is and what it's been through. So that's a really expensive fix that you have to take your top off, you have to replace it. There's a lot of work. It's hundreds and hundreds of dollars, sometimes more, to fix that problem. If you don't fix it, your bass buzzes every time you hit a note. So I wanted to eliminate that problem. So the first thing I did on the structure of the inside of this bass is come up with a new end block design. So instead of using just the common spruce and doing something with that, I have this really nice lightweight mahogany wood that I use on some of my guitar bodies. And it's comparable to the weight of the spruce, and it's a tone wood, so it sounds really nice. I wanted to make the blocks beefier. They're a lot smaller than this traditionally inside the bass, but I didn't want to add any weight to the instrument either, because that would affect the tone. You don't want a giant tank of a bass to carry around. But it needs to be stronger, and it needs to work the same as the traditional spruce block. So what I did to prevent the splitting from shock impact is I've laminated a really thin layer of birch and Luan plywood. It's like less than 1/8 of an inch at the top. The same with the bottom. And then I machined it, these honeycomb pockets in here. They're not actually honeycombs, but I machined these pockets in here to lighten it. And because it's laminated on both sides, nothing's gonna split. I mean, you'd really have to give this thing, I mean, it would, if you split this end block, other things are gonna break before this thing does. So this is beefier and it's lightweight. It comes in maybe even lighter than a spruce block that's half the size. And that's the start of making this instrument, you know, road-proof, bulletproof, without compromising tone, weight, all that stuff. The next part I wanted to tackle was the neck block, and that's the area that the neck gets glued into inside of your bass. Usually a taper or a dovetail joint in here. Traditionally, you know, hand carved. I've worked on a lot of instruments where the neck's broken off and I've reset the neck, and you realize how much space is in between the joint. It's not actually touching, it's filled with glue. Also made of spruce. Your neck is maple, which is a hardwood. Spruce is a really soft wood. They move different in extreme temperatures. So I wanted to attack that problem. Number one, make a perfect neck joint with a dovetail that had full contact under the neck. So there's no air gaps. So to do that efficiently, I use a CNC machine and I cut the dovetail into the neck block. And just like my end block, I've laminated a lightweight piece of plywood here so it doesn't split. I've got the mahogany, and then up here where the neck actually joins, it's either glued or the removable neck. I use maple from the same board that I make the neck from. So this, the neck block that's in this base came from the same wood that I used to make the neck from. So it's gonna move the same. Also the grain orientation is the same. And because I machined this joint on the CNC, they're all the same, they're all perfect. And when I slide them in, there's no gaps at all. They fit like a glove. The next important part of the instrument is my laminations, and the molds are all made in-house here, and I mold all of the pieces here. This is a laminated base. I can also do carved tops. I want to talk about the laminated because truly on the road, you don't really want a carved top. They move, they're prone to breaking. They're more for studio, recording, orchestra. That's a carved top bass that I built. That's a completely carved instrument that I built years ago. But if you're gonna tour, travel around, play gigs, you don't really want that. You don't need it, especially with this pickup. This pickup's gonna sound as good as a carved top. You're gonna get a great double bass sound with this pickup. Anyway, I wanna show you the laminations. This is a C-valve. What I do different than other companies is I use a blend of woods, and we make our own formula of glue. We got to keep it really lightweight, and we also want to keep the acoustic properties of a standard double bass. I use maple and mahogany, and I rotate each layer. So you'll have maple, mahogany, maple, mahogany, maple, mahogany, and then the back becomes maple again. They're super thin, but doing that many layers, I can have the same thickness at the end of the lamination as a standard, like sometimes these are 3-ply, I'll put like a piece of maple and then like a light piece of whatever cardboard wood they use and then another piece of maple. This is the same weight, but it's stronger and it actually sounds better. Also, you can see on this instrument, the tops and the backs we laminate with a nice large curve. So these have really tall tops and backs. They're sexy and they're also strong. The more the arch you have on the top, the less likely it is to cave in. I can use a slightly lighter bass bar so that the top speaks a little more too. And I don't have to worry about this thing caving in. You can see the back is the same way, curvy. This is an important part of the bass too. The complete instrument is built with a solid mahogany liner and trim combined into one. I'm finally able to show you this because I've applied for the patents for this now. This is the structure that I start the build on. I make these parts out of solid wood and I machine them. And it eliminates any difference in the shape of the bass, so I can make these basses perfect every time, and it makes them so much stronger. It works like this. You have your rib, the C-valve, and it slides in like this, nice and tight. And you have no miters here. The only miters are on the ribs, and those are mitered perfectly. And once this is all glued together, they're bulletproof. It makes the strongest bass in the world by far. So I just got this out of the mold. This is the lower bout of the bass. Traditionally, that's two pieces, and you'll always see a seam here. Every company I've ever seen makes a two-piece bottom. I didn't understand why that needed to be done. I had to do a bit trickier mold to make this work right, but it keeps this a solid one piece with no seam, which eventually, when it's built, makes it much stronger. So I built this particular 145 for like a roots rock, rockabilly blues style. It looks kind of like that. It's set up for that with the hybrid strings and the slap pickup. But over the years, I've built instruments from, the obvious like Brian Setzer, Stray Cats, Lee Rocker, Reverend Horton Heat, to Neil Diamond, Cypress Hill, Snoop Dogg, Marilyn Manson, Johnny Holiday. I like to build the custom bass for the player. If I know what he plays, like say Miles Mosley is gonna do some crazy jazz and play a lot of arco, but he wants this really thin fingerboard that he can manipulate with his thumb, and that's kind of my specialty, is coming up with the perfect instrument for what you play. I can not only change the feel and the way they play, radius fingerboards for the arco guys, but I can make it look kind of sky's the limit, whatever you want it to look like. It's from 1776, and do that. You want it to look like Larry Watson painted it in 1955, and it's an old Buick. I can do that too. The best way to get the bass that fits you best, that suits your style, is to call, and we'll do a consultation, figure out, what music you're playing, what style you're going for, and what look you're going for, and build a custom bass.